third speaker for today. The mighty Dr. Pablo DeSoto, who I physically and personally met just 4 days ago, but whose work I followed for many years, and whose contribution to radical cartography and to theorizing using non-print methods or non-textual methods has been sort of extremely influential to, again, myself, but also a generation of cartographer, humanists, and critical internet studies folks. Dr. DeSoto is now a visiting professor of architecture at Federal University of Paraíba, Brazil, so he has traveled quite a bit to get to where we are. He's now based in Trondheim for the next 6 weeks as our very, very own Trondheim-based, Trondheim-committed NTNU ARTEC artist in residence for 2019.
Trolla citizen.
Trolla citizen. Trolla Patriot. Yes. He's an award-winning experimental architect, a multidisciplinary artist, a radical cartographer, scholar, an educator with very diverse experience across geographical and disciplinary borders. He holds a master's degree in architecture, but also a PhD in communication and culture, so he really marries these different disciplines and different ways of doing architecture and knowledge together. Among his many, many achievements that I'm sure he will be telling you about later today, he is a co-founder of Arquitectura, which was a collective of architects, computer specialists, and activists pioneering emancipatory uses of hardware, software, and the internet back in 10, 15 years ago, right?
16 years ago.
Yes. He's also a recipient of LED Driven Experimenta, Lab Cyberspace, and Elinor Ostrom Awards. He's also the editor, prolific writer and editor of Fadayat, Freedom of Movement, Freedom of Knowledge, Situation Room, designing a prototype of a citizen situation room, and after video assemblages. And he's also a co-author of the Critical Cartography of the Straits of Gibraltar, which was exhibited worldwide. And his talk today is entitled Arquitectura Net, Radical Cartography and Space Flows Experimental Architecture. So please join me in welcoming Dr. DeSoto to Trondheim.
Does this sound well? Okay. I'm very grateful to Hannah for the introduction, also to Andrew, to Daphne, Thomas, Sarah, my amazing assistants, Ray, Bilde, the rest of the NTNU crew, also Dima, Alex Studio, for having me here and making it possible. Since I'm going to give a lecture at Culture Night in the 30th of September, and I'm going to present a new project there, the one I'm developing here as artist in residence, entitled Resist as Forest. Today is going to be more an introduction about my work, but let's say the beginning, like the foundational hypothesis, let's say, projects that really like 16 years ago. But I pretend also to share some theory that will be an introduction for the workshop on radical cartography that we're gonna do after lunch.
That's what we do in Trondheim after lunch. We do radical cartography.
Yeah, so I was co-founder of this group, Arquitectura. I co-created with two fellows. One he was teacher, the other was a student as me. It was an amazing moment at the beginning of the 2000s. In the technological realm, it was like the invasion of the internet. And that was amazing. It was '94, World Wide Web. Then it was 2002, wireless technology. So imagine if you were at that time, as we were into reading sci-fi and wanted to do something kind of radical stuff, that was something that was quite unique. Now for digital natives, like if you're born in the 90s or 2000, you cannot imagine a world before the internet. But we were that kind of generation that these new technologies arrive. So we as architects say, okay, why architects should not also engage in this new technological world. No? Also, in terms of politics, there was a specific moment also at the end of the 90s, beginning of 2000, that there was a huge contestation against the neoliberal global regime. It was basically social movement that they were organizing south and north. In 1999, there was this big mobilization in Seattle against the World Trade Organization and the World Bank. Also in Prague, 2001, there was a huge contestation against let's say, all those big neoliberal organizations. And also there was also the beginning, and this is very important, of between technology and social movements. It was the foundation of indie media. I don't know if you're familiar with indie media, but basically indie media and Slashdot were the first blogs ever. Because now it's very easy to publish on the internet, no? But in 1999, let's say, some hackers working with activists, they created a technology to be able to publish online. To do what? To do independent media. Because there was like newspapers and then there was independent media. And now it looks like archaeology, but that time was very important in the late 90s, no? Because there was going this, it was called anti-globalization movement, but indeed it was an absolutely globalized movement for social justice, human rights. Okay. So we were studying architecture, and of course we said, okay, for us it was not so let's say exciting to work with bricks and traditional space. So we wanted to develop our theory and practice in a hybrid space that was both physical and digital. No? But the thing, it was 2002. Right? It was not, now to say that, okay, we're in a hybrid world, but in 2002, that was, imagine, I was studying architecture, and me and my colleague, we had really troubles with our teachers. Because we were saying, no, we want to work with wireless technology, and this is, some of them they even didn't have email at that time. Mm-hmm. So we had those. I mean, it was not easy at the beginning. Basically, we were not passing our. We were doing this kind of projects. I'm going to show some of them, and we were somehow rejected by the academia. We were in a kind of in a peripheral university. We were in Seville, which is not very well known because of technology. Maybe if we were like let's say in London or in Amsterdam, it would have been different. But in Seville, the teachers, they were afraid of us. They were afraid of us because they didn't understand what we were doing. But at the same time, we started to get invitations to go to places in Europe, like to present our work, mainly art-centered. So mainly it was the people who were like doing kind of critical theory about the internet. So say, who are those guys in the periphery of Europe that they are doing this kind of experimental stuff? No? So we started to collaborate with developers, with hackers, with the kind of critical thinkers on the internet, and to get those invitations. And in my case, yeah, I was somehow a bit, kicked out from Seville School of Architecture, but I got an invitation to make my master in KTH. So at the end, it was not so bad. No?
Which is now the most important also Center for Environmental Humanities in Europe.
Yeah.
KTH.
Yeah. So yeah, but I did in architecture with my supervisor was Ana Betancourt. She was one of the founders of Reclaim the Street movement. And this is very important because, of course, we're saying that we are working in this hybrid physical digital space, but our aim was, let's say, we were into radical experimentation, but as activists. So we were dealing with migrant rights, free software. Activists also in technology. No? And yeah, when we say about the hybrid space, what is this hybrid space? So there were like many like kind of authors we were reading, like we were reading out sci-fi, like William Gibson, Neil Stephenson, that kind of more fiction stuff. But that's what we were like really reading carefully. So like kind of sociologists, for example, Manuel Castells, who he coined a concept. Manuel Castells, he's a cybernetic culture theoretician and sociologist, and he developed a concept to talk about this transforming reality. In 1960, he published this book called, it was kind of encyclopedic research about the information age. And in the first volume, entitled The Rise of Network Society, he offers his interpretation of the spatial transformations. And he says, networks constitute the new social morphology of our societies. And our society is built around flows. Flows of capital, flows of information, flows of images, sounds, and symbols. The flows are not only an element of social organization, they are the expression of the processes that dominate our economic, political, and symbolic life. So the material, if that is the case, the material support of our society's dominant process will be the set of elements that sustain those flows and make their articulation materially possible at the same time. So Castell therefore proposed the idea that there is a new spatial form characteristic of the social processes that dominate and shape network society, the space of flows. And this is a high-level cultural abstraction of space and time, and the dynamic interaction with digital age society. And this is very important if you are into the architectural realm, is that the space of flows opposes and imposes its own logic on the traditional space that Castell calls the space of places. So they say we were going to be architects for the space of flows, not so much for the space of places. And for him, and for many authors, I have to mention two guys from the RAND Corporation. Basically, RAND Corporation is a think tank of the US Air Force. They're called Arkila and Grunfeld. For them, I mean, this is very interesting because Arkila and Grunfeld, they were publishing books, let's say, open publishing about, for example, about the Zapatistas, about, okay, this was called Intelligentsia from the US Air Force, no? And so for those authors, as for Castells, those social agents capable of operating in the space of flows will be the ones who reach a dominant position in the new context. So this notion conceptualize new forms of spatial arrangement under the new technological paradigm, a new type of space that allows distant, synchronous, real-time interaction. So one consequence of this argument is that an intervention to transform contemporary territories requires operating in the new context of flows. Okay, so first, we want to become this kind of architects for the space of flows. What do we need to do first? To map what is going on. What is going on and what we want to do. And a kind of cartography is a kind of a strategic and tactical tool. No? And of course, maps are very powerful because they produce an idea of the world. Even if the map is not the territory, as we experienced in this okay. They produce the territory. They produce the territory. So even if maps are just a representation of reality, not reality itself, they tend to produce reality. So that's why they are so powerful. So, but we are doing this kind of radical cartography, which is a specific kind of maps. No? So there are maps that are, let's say, maps created by individuals or groups that produce their own narratives about urban scale territories and what is important for them. And this radical cartography is just one name, but it's about counter-cartography, tactical cartography, citizen cartography, new cartography. There are many names, no? But they are talking about an enormous cultural shift from a previous era when the mapping of our cities and regions was placed mainly in the hands of government mapping authorities, corporations, and different kinds of hegemonic groups. So there was a democratization of map making that is not only the result of a mixture of digital revolutions, like Google Maps, GPS, and so on, but also the democratization of map making as a result of the actions of engaged citizens and social movements. And this is one of the definitions that I'm using about radical cartography as the practice of map making that subverts conventional notions in order to actively promote social change. And social change, for social justice, environmental justice, human rights, okay? But this is obvious, no? But,
so let's emphasize that.
Let's emphasize, no? Because now, so ethic issues, no? Okay. So I want to share now, quickly, some experiences about collectives of artists, hackers, architects using cartography to both analyze and intervene in reality for the development of a socially sustainable society. So for example, some art of map making have addressed the challenge to visualize power relations, contemporary political, social, and economic system. This was very influential for us. I think we were the second group doing this kind of math. They were the first ones. They're called Bureau d'Etudes. They're from France, and they were doing this kind of visual analysis of transnational capitalism based on extensive research. And there is kind of Foucaultian kind of research. They're doing really, really hardcore research and making those maps. So they're revealing what normally remains invisible and contextualizing apparently separate elements with a bigger whole. No? So this visualization of interest and cooperation really symbolize the unseen and hidden. Just if we take a look to this is like a universe, just as part of the map. No? So those maps, they are printed, they're quite big, and they have produced many maps. When I visited them, they were living in the Rue Revolution in Paris. Okay. Another project is, for example, this new social cartography of the Amazon. That is a project that teaches indigenous tribes in the rainforest to use GPS technology to delimit their own territories. No? So it's a part of participatory process to delimit the spaces of indigenous land rights. No? I really like this map because this is a really old school map, but this is about, I don't know if you're familiar, 2011, there was this occupation of the square in Madrid for 2 months. So it was like a temporary commons city, and that was the map, and it's beautiful. So you have like legal, I mean, that was like, man, this is the center of Spain, and that camp lasts for 2 months. So here you can see the map. And it was as radical as possible because it was against, let's say, the authorities, and but you see it like food, infrastructure for cleaning, lost objects, toilet, assembly, volunteer, feminist commission, computer science, clean, like this is for recycling, like mailbox. This is for assignment. It's extremely complex kind of social organization because this was totally autonomous, emerging kind of process. And this is the map that the people, so you were going to the square and you see this map on the wall. And it was done by some architects. And it was totally really kind of grassroots, revolutionary, kind of ensemblage for the common good. And there are many examples. This is another map done by a collective of architects in Lebanon. They were mapping like some attacks by the Israel army against Lebanon. So this is the Gaza Street. They were doing those maps when in one of those operations that Israel is doing sometimes against population in Gaza Street. This is another group that is very, very prominent in map making. They're from Argentina. They're called iconoclastistas, and they have developed a kind of participatory methodology to basically to gather people like where we are going today, and they have created a kind of a full set of icons to do this kind of like also like fast track kind of maps. This is one example. This is about basically it's called this radiography about the soya plantations in Argentina, which is a huge problem with many issues like health issues. Okay, but they did this map in a kind of workshop as the one we're going to do. Maybe for them it took longer. It was a few days. And there are many examples. Some maps are also about the data. So this is, for example, OpenStreetMap. It's a project that started in 2004, and it's a collaborative, editable map of the world. It's like the Wikipedia map because of basically all those geographic points are public domain. So if you use Google Maps for your own projects, you are signing a contract with Google, so you cannot do many things. I mean, you can do it, but you cannot. So this is a kind of high tech. This is the kind of the commons high tech map of basically streets. Basically streets. You don't have satellite image, but you have streets. You know? And it has been done by practice, by people who has GPS. They make a route, and some people buy a satellite image, for example, of Haiti after the earthquake, or Puerto Rico. And I mean, Alice was talking about a specific case about it. You know? So some radical cartography is also about technology, of course. There are many. This is also a really beautiful map because it's a kind of biocomputational cyber cartography about this movement in Spain in 2011, where people started to occupy the squares for, it was called real democracy, because there was, I don't know if you're familiar with, but in Spain there was kind of austerity measures. They were being very extreme against population, so people were losing their jobs, their houses. So it was really a big drama going on. So people started to organize, and this is an amazing map because at that time the social movement in Spain, they were really good about using technopolitics, using Twitter. So this is a kind of also super high-tech radical cartography about basically it's about a kind of they analyzed 500,000 of tweets of people that they were engaging in occupying the squares. I don't know if Madrid was the center, but all cities in Spain from 50,000 inhabitants, they were occupied by normal people. So this is a kind of a visualization that this was a university. It was biocomputing department. Okay, so it's really cool because they are hearing like what is going on, like, and then I can't stop too much in this case. Sorry. For me, this is kind of for me like the state of the art of kind of math right now. It was done mainly by a group in Novi Sad. They are called Share Labs, and for me they are like the masters of the universe doing mapping the black box of technology. So they are working a lot about like mapping, for example, the way Facebook works. But this specific map is called Anatomy of an Artificial Intelligence System, and it's about what is, if we think about, for example, when we take the telephone, we activate Siri or this Android sound synthesis from sound to text, or if you have this Amazon Echo at home, what is going on in terms of exploitation of natural resources and human labor and human data? Because it looks like magic. I mean, when we talk with the talent, it's like, okay, you say something on there, something replies. What is going on in terms of resources to make it happen? So this is amazing because it's like combining about what is like physical and what is like digital. No? So this is a kind of, in this part of the map, it goes, okay, those are mineral resources in Congo and so many countries that you need to mine. And then you need to mine, this is like a kind of like the chemical periodic table. So, this is such a complex project, but basically, okay, you start to map here from Earth, but at the end, those same minerals, at the end, they will become electronic waste in some place in Africa or in Asia, so they will become technofossils. And in the central map, part of the map, is about all this kind of artificial intelligence, data centers, data processing, so this is so key. I could be talking about this map for 2 hours. And for example here, this is like the income distribution. Okay, human labor. Who is working for our mobiles to respond to us? So at the bottom is a miner in Congo. At the top is Jeff Bezos, the Amazon CEO. And they get, I think it was like 3,000, he gets just in one day, 300,000 more money than the mine in his whole life. So, okay, so this map has also many, in terms of like theoretical apparatuses that they are using, is so complex. You have to read a lot. You have to be into critical theory, into so many kind of. So from this part of the map, it's more like kind of like let's say heterogeneous Marxist analysis of work and labor. No? So I really recommend this map, and this is the website is Anatomy of an AI System. The Share Labs from Novi Sad working with a scholar from New York. She's called Kate Brown, and she's running the Artificial Intelligence Institute in New York. But those guys from Share Labs also they do this. This is an amazing. It's called Facebook as algorithm factory. So they basically they research about 80 patterns from Facebook to understand. To try to understand what is going on inside when you the way this so like Cambridge Analytica. Those guys, they were using this graph in order to crack democracy in the UK and in the United States. It was a kind of a quick overview of some projects. yesterday there was an amazing lecture about tonal parks, which I found amazing because it was both about mapping the geographical, the concentration map, but also mapping follow the money thing. No? So I could include also like your map as another kind of state-of-the-art example of radical cartography. But in our case now we are coming back to 2002, and we did this map like 17 years ago. I cannot talk too much, but it was we were living in Seville at that time. There was a kind of big demonstration because Spain was at the presidencies of the European Union, and there were many problems going on in the city, like gentrification, like privatization of some public spaces. So we did this map kind of map real estate. You know, Spain was in a very you know, like the crisis in Spain was because Spain was building a lot. Basically, our economy is based on bricks real estate, and it has caused a huge crisis in Spain. So this map was also kind of piling in and saying what is going on. That we have this really okay. So, and of course, this map to make an idea, we did it in paper and we published it. I mean, we did many copies, and it was in a kind of activist concept because we were working with the social forum in Seville. Okay, there are so many things. But also, now coming back to theory, our influencers. So it was this, of course, like Deleuze and Guattari, who in this book, 1000 Plateaus, Capitalism and Schizophrenia, they refer to the concept of map as more action than representation. The map, rather than represent a world that is already given, involves the identification of new concepts, the creation of new relationships and territories, new machines. No? And they refer to cartographic practice that is no longer limited to the drawing that represents a geographical territory in 2 dimensions, but as a tool of knowledge and production of the real. So it extends to any representation of a complex situation that situates on the same metaphorical relation at the region's elements, social, political, mental, technological, events, places, imaginary, etc. So what is important here? That maps are in between art and science. No? It's in between those different modes of cognition. But if we take this idea of Deleuze Guattari, they were philosophers, no? But cartography as a tool for collective action and agency. The map as performance. 1 minute? 1 minute?
3 minutes. 3.
Oh my god.
2.
Shit. Okay. Oh my god. So what do I do? Okay.
Let's have one more example. Okay,
and I'm going to do this. Okay. Okay, so at that moment we were living there. This is the street of Gibraltar. There was the beginning of this crisis, this refugee crisis. This was year 2000, where the border in between Spain and Morocco started to become let's say a grave, no? Okay, because Europe was starting to create its own fortress Europe. So basically, we wanted to map Fortress Europe. And this is a map that we did in 2004. So we collaborated with many people and social movements there. So we mapped this kind of highly complex, let's say, geopolitical hotspot. That is. It's where many systems collapse, you know, like the European Union, Africa, the Mediterranean Ocean, and the Atlantic. So, with this kind of critical cartography, we wanted to create an alternative understanding of that particular territory. So, to map the border, not as an abstract geopolitical line, but a increasingly complicated contested space where the border is not anymore periphery, but the border becomes the center. That's the reason we are like making, you know, we are not having a kind of different color. This is a kind of the new thing that we need to understand, like the way the border works. Well, we were influenced by Naomi Klein, Megan Hart. So Okay, we invented kind of a full set of icons at that time, also it was quite new that basically Europe and Australia and United States, they were starting to do a new kind of typology of buildings that was migration detention centers. Basically, the prisons for migrants, prisons for people that they are just moving, but they can get into. So we started to map those prisons, and also we started to map something because we were into technology. There was also something new that Spain, first time in history, worldwide, developed this system that is called surveillance system with straits. So basically, it was a set of sensors in the border to basically to track refugee people that they go on boats. What with the previous technology, like basically radars, you could not detect boat people. So they made this system using infrared optronic, and they started to implement this system in this part of the border, because this is 14 kilometers and was the closest point. Even if it's the closest point, 40 kilometers is really risky, because there are big waves, it's like bad weather. But basically they install those towers in this part, so then the migrants start to have to take longer routes. So what we wanted to do, we wanted to map the Strait of Gibraltar as a geopolitical territory where globalization is doing, for example, like kind of a full reconfiguration of the space and economy. Let's say some industries are closing their factories in Spain and they are being relocated to Morocco in new spatial zones. That's what Naomi Klein was about. But also where there is a kind of low intensity war against migrants. It's a low intensity war against migrants. So that's what we wanted to do with this map. But then, okay, I have to. Okay. But let's say in this other part of the map, it was like the social movement that they were at the same territory doing other stuff. No? It's another world is possible, another border is possible. And then we did other projects. Then we started to collaborate with in other places of the world, with talking about Palestine. This is another project. This I'm doing with my students. I want to stop a little bit in this. This is a new thing that it has not been published, but it's a cartographic research about the assassination of Marielle Franco. She was a city councilor from Rio de Janeiro that she was shot dead. She was shot 5 times in her head. So what are we trying to do with this cartography? To map, let's say, the state of the art of micro-technopolitics. Basically, what is like new for us that we were kind of internet activists in the late 90s, is that now the far right, they are using the internet very well for their own agenda. And this is quite a new thing. So this is a very clear case, because basically this wonderful woman, she was shot dead on the streets, but just a few hours later there was an attack on her political figure through fake news. Fake news connecting, saying that she was working with the narco traffickers in Rio, which was always fake. I mean, it's supposed that she was Mariela, she was the kind of the chief of one of the most important criminal facts in Rio. Neither was he, neither was her. And then there was kind of huge movement on the digital realm. Like it's a kind of information warfare against. Okay. So we wanted to map that.
So thank you so much for your talk.